I mean, I can't see myself fighting a teammate. I mean, it's almost, I'm trying to give the example of our teammate. I mean, you might want to do it. I don't know. I don't know what your answer is. We have other 155ers on the team. We have, say Troy Sheridan. We have Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So a UFC's title on the line. Are you fighting Diego?
For a UFC title?
A UFC title's on the line. Would you fight Diego for a UFC title? Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA, back here for the Building Hurting Bombs podcast. And we have an exciting announcement to start off the podcast. The channel, as well as the podcast, is now brought to you by Perfect Sports Nutrition. Excited about this teaming up with Perfect Sports because I've been using them for a while, and I like to partner up with people in supplements and gear that I believe in. So if you follow the channel, you can see I'm with Hayabusa and Perfect Sports Nutrition. So I need to work with companies that I believe in and that I use and I recommend. So Perfect Sports Nutrition. And if you guys are interested in any of their stuff, you can check the link below and use Bazooka 20 and get 20% off. So excited to have them as part of the team. And you're going to see a lot of the supplements that I use, the type and when I use these supplements. So no better person to bring that in than Matt Special. He's my team nutritionist, Bearded Bites. And we're going to talk a little bit about supplements and how we use them in our training. So I know a lot of people ask how to, use supplements properly. They see all of this online and they have no idea how to use it. So Matt, we're going to try to break it down for everyone listening. And I'm hoping that most people who are listening are into martial arts, combat sports, and training. So the idea of using these supplements is for performance and recovery. So what up, Matty?
What's going on? It's good to be back.
I know. I'm excited, man. And first thing I thought about is Perfect Sports Nutrition, Bearded Bites coming together because, that's your field and your understanding. So let's talk supplements for a little bit.
All right, let's do it. Which one are we going to start with?
Okay, so before you work out, I mean, a lot of times I've been a big believer in caffeine, and I still am a big believer because it's the first thing I have, and then I go to my workout. So I just recently started with Perfect Sports, created their new pre-workout, Altered, and I never really used pre-workout. So I decided to give it a shot, and I've never realized, I feel the duration, the intensity I'm able to bring is just that little bit better.
Yeah, no, and you gave me a scoop of it. Yeah. I tried it out. I loved it. And same thing like you, I just use caffeine. I use coffee. Yeah. And what's good about it, this pre-workout, it's got the caffeine in it. Yep. So it gives you that stimulant, obviously. And then there's other things that they added in, like I'm liking how they had taurine in there.
Taurine, I was going to say, is one of mine.
That's amazing for your muscle contraction.
And that's in energy drinks, right? Taurine is very big in energy drinks.
Mm-hmm. And then a big one they have in there is citrulline. Okay. So what that does is it actually converts to nitric oxide in your body.
So that's what gives you the pump, basically, right? The nitric oxide.
Yeah, and nitric oxide helps as it's a vasodilator.
Yeah,
so
the pump.
It's that pump, man.
Pump.
It just gives you that pump.
Yeah.
That's a big one too. Those are the really big ones. Obviously, along with the caffeine and everything like that, it gives you exactly what you need. They also put in the beta alanine.
Beta alanine, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, which helps reduce lactic acid buildup.
Yeah, I think that's important because Costa used to get me on that a lot, and I know you're recently on it, is using the creatine with the beta alanine, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I like using the beta alanine for a longer period of time. Yeah. So what I always tell my athletes and for myself that I take it every day, 4 times separately each day, and in order for it to get the most beneficial effect, for at least it's a 28 days until it fully saturates in your body to give you the best effect. So I like doing it. I take it as a separate supplement in order to get the most out of it.
Yeah. And those who are listening, if you're interested, that blue raspberry flavor, oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I'm hooked on that blue raspberry. Mm-hmm. So that's I'm definitely hooked on that. So now during my workout, I've taken my pre-workout. Usually, I'll be honest, I have my coffee in the morning. I'll hit that pre-workout, and then I hit my workout. So now as I work out, I really sip on branched-chain amino acids. And I mean, the idea is protein is made up of amino acids. So when you're working out, you break down the protein. So you want to replenish them with amino acids. You really got me. I used to like branched chains post training, but you got me taking these Perfect Sports ones during.
Yeah, so I like doing it during, and it's going into like post workout. So what happens is during, like midway, I get myself and you and like our guys to have it midway. Actually, it actually reduces the mental fatigue. So as you work out, so what happens is you're starting to get a little bit tired more and more as you go for long duration workouts. What happens is BCAAs actually blocks that from happening, and it actually stops the mental fatigue from like onsetting.
Okay.
And then what's good about it is actually been proven that it helps with delayed onset muscle soreness. So if you're really pushing a resistance workout, weightlifting, having that is shown to help you with the onset muscle soreness for the next day or 2 days after.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I've just been taking branched chains for a long time now, so I'm a big believer in them because a lot of times I do work out fasted. I know you're not a big believer in fasted workout. I mean, it's okay, fasted workouts. I mean, if you're going for performance, ideally you want to eat before you work out. But for me right now, I just need to kind of trim down a little bit, holding a little bit of extra love around these handles right now. So I'm trying to lean out. So I have been working out fasted a lot. So I feel having those branched chains throughout my workout while I'm fasted just helps with, keeping the muscles nice and strong. And I don't want to deplete the muscle. I know I'm not working hard enough to deplete muscle at that point and I'm hitting the fat. It's just, I think psychologically to have those branched chains in while I'm working out fasted just makes me feel a little better too.
And I always notice, with something with flavor, I find people find that as like a stimulant as well. So if they're only drinking water, they're like, oh, this sucks.
It's terrible.
And then when they throw in the BCAAs, they're like, oh, now I feel it. And you feel like a little bit of a jump. Even if it's psychological, still works.
Yeah. And just not to be called out on it, I understand. I mean, for those who are really into intermittent fasting, branched chains have been said to break your fast. I mean, some fasting will say, no, you're fine to take branched chains during your fast, but from the more research I have done, the branched chains will break your fast. Mm-hmm. So regardless, I don't really care about that. For me, it's more about calorie restriction at this point and being able to work out and keep my calories as low as possible because at the end of the day, I do not want to eat like a pro fighter anymore. I do not want to prepare my meals. I don't want to have 4 small meals. I want to eat once or twice good meals and then just fast myself out and work it out. But I don't want to do all that meal prepping anymore, so that's why I intermittent fast.
Well, you need a couple of my menu options, man. I don't eat just bland chicken and broccoli.
I know,
man.
but then you got to prepare it, you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too many life events to kind of stress out about it. So, you're not convincing me to do that.
That's fine.
Unless I really want to get shred. Okay, so let's keep moving from there. So pre-workout, during the workout, about midway through, we're hitting our glutamine, and now post. We've always done it, is a protein shake, and a lot of protein shakes do have glutamine in it, but I don't think there is enough in most proteins. So I always add a scoop of glutamine into my protein.
Mm-hmm. And it's good. And I just started recently using glutamine, especially if you are cutting weight a little bit and you're bringing your weight down. It's the amino acid pool of glutamine starts to lower as you're working out, and you start to get into more of a catabolic state when it comes to your glutamine levels. Yep. And that can be a detriment to you, to basically muscle breakdown, but most importantly, your immune system. Yeah. Your immune system needs that glutamine in order to function properly. And especially for fighters or people just in a calorie deficit in general, your glutamine levels are going to lower, and that's going to cause infections, sickness, and we got to keep those levels as high as possible in order for you to not deal with all that nonsense. So yeah, I would add in, and I do it now too. I add in the glutamine scoop with my protein shake. Yeah.
And I think the last supplement we should talk about, which we do, is the creatine, and how and when you use it.
Creatine's got to be the best supplement there is.
And they say scientifically and through studies, they say it's one of the, it's studied as the best supplement on the market that gives you the best performance benefits.
Best performance benefits, and it's the cheapest. Yeah. Like you can't go wrong with it.
I heard with brain function, it's becoming really good with cognitive functioning, and even like with brain damage. I heard creatine is a good brain neuroprotectant.
Yeah, because they've already done so many studies how it helps you physically, but now they're jumping over to what it does for you mentally, and it's huge. it's becoming one of the best things out there to take.
And you are a big believer in taking it all year round, one
Yeah.
scoop a day?
Yeah, 1 scoop a day all year round. I've been taking it for about 2.5 years in now, like fully every day.
Yeah.
And then as long as you take it, you can do two. There's two ways you can do it. If you're not a professional athlete, if you're not like competing in like in a fight coming up, you don't have to load it. People have mixed reviews on loading and then taking it consistently for 5 grams each.
Yeah.
And then, but like if you want to load it, I'd say to get it in your body and saturate your muscles faster, 5 to 7 days of 20 grams.
20 grams, eh?
20 grams, yeah. So that would equate to 4 scoops.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that 5 to 7 days, you go down to just 5 grams a day. You know what? There hasn't been enough work out there to specify when's the best time to take it.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah,
I never really knew when.
It's, you know what? Just get it in your body. That's it. Just get it in your body. Think of it as put it somewhere that you know that you won't forget to take it, and get it in your body, and then that's every day. And if you don't even want to load it, you do 5 grams each day. Within 3-4 weeks,
it's stored anyways,
it's
right?
stored. Yeah, you'll be fully into your body for 3-4 weeks, saturate in your muscles, and you're good to go.
And even if you don't take it for a couple of days, your body's still holding on to it for a while, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world if you don't take it and like, now all of a sudden I won't be able to lift, you know?
No, man, because once you're saturated with it, man, it takes, I think, like 4 weeks for it to fully leave your body. Yeah. Because obviously you know that what comes with it is some water retention.
Yeah, that's
which
the
is
big
overblown.
thing for me. I mean, I think it's overblown, but someone like me, like I look at pizza and I put on 5 pounds of water. Like I have no idea, like blame it on my genetics, but I'm Mr. Bloat. You're Mr. Bloat too. I don't know how you're trying to, come on, man. I've seen you after fights. Don't try to act like, you're not Mr. Bloat. You're just as bad bloater as I am, you know?
Joe, we know that I got
worse.
the cankles
Yeah.
after fighting.
After
a fight.
Me, I'm all in the waist. I get a nice little love handle roll. That's how I know. Like my face a little bit chubbier, but Matt, you're all ankles.
All ankles. It's
I don't
disgusting.
understand. You're like an old Italian lady. Like who gets swollen ankles? Matt gets swollen ankles. The old Italian Matt.
Yeah. And what I try
Granny bites.
So what I try to tell people with when it comes to like creatine and try to like monitor everything is we don't know how much water you're going to retain with creatine because everyone's afraid of that. Everyone's like, oh man, creatine makes me bloat. Creatine like holds so much water. So before you go on on creatine, monitor obviously your weight, and then when you start taking creatine, within 3 to 4 weeks, see how much. Keep everything the same diet-wise, food intake. See how much you put on when it comes to water intake. And this holds true for fighters because then you can decide whether or not is it beneficial to drop the creatine maybe 3 weeks before weigh-ins in order to help you with the weight cut.
Because at that point, you're cutting the water out, right? And if you're taking creatine, you're just going to hold it.
Exactly. But you're also going to, on the water cut, you're also taking that out anyway. Whatever the creatine's holding, you're going to take that water out. So, but let's just say, in order to cut all the bullshit, if you hold 3-4 pounds or 4 or 5 pounds of water from the creatine, it might be beneficial for you to drop the creatine to help you with the water cut. But if you hold 2 pounds, no, man, the benefits of creatine outweigh the holding of the water, I think.
I mean, I used to cut it out because I was just always scared to be able to hold that extra bit of weight. But, I mean, I believe in your last camp, you kept it all the way up to the weigh-in, right?
Yeah, I never looked like that at weigh-ins before.
Yeah, and I mean, you were still strong, you were still full. I'm sure the recovery is a little bit better if you're still saturated with creatine.
Mm-hmm. Because that's when we start. That's what I put in the rehydration shakes. Then put in the creatine. It just gives. I put about 10 grams in, a little bit extra, and obviously, it's a 1%er. It gives you a little bit more for that fight, and you want every advantage possible.
I have a question for you personally. I don't know if you know the answer or not, but so I'm doing a video with Perfect Sports. If you've seen, Danny already put it on so you guys can see what our first commercial looked like. So we're doing one in 2 weeks, and I want to look shred on this one. Like last time, it was post-Christmas. I'll say it as it is. I got to 214 pounds. Ooh. That was a big boy. Yeah, chubby boy. So now I'm back down to 203 today, which is impressive. So I want to get nice and ripped for this. But a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of fighters, in order to release the water, like dandelion root. Do you like it? Would you use it in weight cuts? and your just overall thoughts on it.
The dandelion root, yeah. Like I learned to use it during the week of the water cut, but then I started to notice that like I felt it had a
over depleting, or
like after weigh-ins, I still kept going to the bathroom, and I felt like I wasn't holding anything. I was like, I was having a right amount of sodium, all that stuff, and I just felt like it was becoming a detriment to me.
Too much in your system still.
I was just pissing constantly. I was like, no, I've taken that out recently,
yeah.
But you got to see how your body responds to it.
Yeah, I've heard good and bad things about it, but like my thought would have been yours. Like, how do you just stop it after? Like, if it's still in your system and now you're trying to replenish water, but now you're continuing to pee it out, like that's just counterproductive at that point, right?
Yeah. I just want to point out how you said, and people saw the video, how you told them your weight, and then you said you felt big and you felt fat, and most people are going to see the video going, "You fucking asshole." I know. Come on.
It's body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Okay? I got it. All of us got body dysmorphia.
We all do. 100% we all do. Okay, so 2 weeks and you want to look shredded.
I want to look shredded for this video because it's just more of one, it's me of wanting to just challenge myself again. I've just been too comfortable, like trying to get big and strong and just not really overly caring. But I feel like I want to put a good camp. I want to be focused and dedicated on my diet. I want to see how lean I can get. It's been a while. And I mean, I've been putting the last 4 or 5 years of strictly I've been putting high volume reps in the gym. I'm all about getting as big and strong as possible. So now when I take this fat and water out, I'm hoping to have a nice looking 6-pack under there. We'll see. I don't think I've seen a full 6 in a couple years, but I would like to. So we'll see. I mean, that's just a little challenge for a couple weeks, try to drop some weight. But we have Aaron Bronsteter coming on, Matt. With Kamaru, we're going to talk about Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. The main topic, man, I just want to, how ridiculous this is, because our team you've been part of my team forever, but guys fighting each other. Like these guys, like this just throws me completely off that 2 guys at this level. I understand the belt, the money, the business, but I mean, I can't see myself fighting a teammate. I mean, it's almost, I'm trying to give the example of our teammate. I mean, you might want to do it. I don't know. I don't know what your answer is. We have other 155ers on the team. We have, say Troy Sheridan. We have Diego. So a UFC's title on the line. Are you fighting Diego?
For a UFC title?
A UFC title's on the line. It's maybe you and Troy are like brothers, so it's hard. We've kind of been around from, for years. So I think that relationship's a little too deep. It's like, hey, me and you fighting. Like the relationship goes too far back. It's like brotherhood more than training partners. So I'm trying to think of someone like Diego. Would you fight Diego for a UFC title?
I would literally sit down with Diego and I'd say, "Hey, man, like
you're gonna sit down with Diego now."
I would sit him down. No, hold on. Let me say it. I would sit down and be like, "Listen, let's see what kind of paycheck is on the line." And I'm like, "Could we put everything aside and just say, hey, are we gonna give him a scrap?"
Okay, that's like breaking up with your girlfriend and saying, "Let's be friends and let's be cool." Are you cool if I post a picture with other girls and you post pictures with other guys? Is it okay? Like, no, I couldn't do it.
It would definitely be tough, but once again, it's one of those things. If it's on the regional MMA scene, no, it's not even a question. But if it's the highest level, it's like,
damn. I understand BTC or up and coming, but I'm trying to put myself in your shoes now. A Glory kickboxing world title was my dream, and all of a sudden, my training partner standing there. What do I do? So I don't know. It's kind of tough, but like my mindset isn't about business. My mindset is destruction, So part of me is like, I don't want to hurt my friend. I don't want to hurt someone who's a nice person, So I think it would be, I would have a very hard time doing it.
Yeah, and
I mean, I wouldn't be okay with it. I don't know how, I don't know, man. It's just a messy thing. And I understand the business side point, but I feel like there's a brotherhood. And we've always said your friends in martial arts are different than your friends outside of martial arts. Like I try to explain to someone, like I have my closest friends, but it's almost like the relationship and the brotherhood you have with someone in the war or in the Navy or in anywhere like that. You create this brotherhood based on basically death, It's like you have to rely on this other person. So like I could picture you and Troy, in my corner. So when I come to the corner and I'm split open, full of blood, like you guys were there for me, Like it's just that bond that I have that, man, I'm going to be okay because Troy and Matt and Paul were in my corner. I know I'm okay. Costa's there to just, I'm safe there because my brothers in war are there. But sometimes, like your closest friends, like they can't be in that position. So you create a tighter bond with these types of people. So for me, it's like it just makes it that much harder. And I'm a person of vibes, of energy. So like even my opponents, like you were the same, brought up with the same coach as I am. Like we weren't overly, I would say it as it is, we weren't really allowed to go and be overly social to our opponent because it's like, hey, like you have to have that little bit of tension, that animosity, that the hurt aspect to it. And I lived off of that hurt aspect. I mean, if I'm fighting someone with a lot more experience, I have to want to hurt them a little bit. And I don't like to hurt people. Like I really don't. I like to hurt people when, money and my world of titles are on the line. It's a little different. I'll torture someone, like if that's my goal on the line and I don't know who it is, but I have to put myself in that mind frame. So, I mean, it's very difficult. I would even have a hard time doing a lot of times rematches, man. Like, because after you fight someone, you're usually friendly with them. Hey, man, good fight, good scrap. You hug it out. You see them at another event. You talk to them. You become friendlier. Now it's like, hey, you guys got to fight again. But I'm like, man, we just became friendly after that last fight. Now I got to go do it again. Like, it makes sense that you can and you should, and I would as a professional, but that's still difficult for me.
And you brought up a good point too, like because we both have the same mentality where I'm going in to finish the fight.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
When I start hitting somebody, especially in my fights, and I've seen them like their eyes roll back and they're starting to fall down, I don't feel the need to back up and go, oh, I hope he's okay.
You go for the
no,
finish.
I go for the finish because that's the job.
Yeah.
But like if I'm fighting a Diego or if it ever happened like Troy, I'm like I couldn't do that. So you brought up a good point that made me think that I couldn't, like if I hit someone, one of my training partners, and they kind of start to waver, I'm like gonna go to them like, are you okay?
Do you go again? Did you whip that left head kick to their face and try to put them out at that time? So I mean,
couldn't.
It might hold you back. So I mean, I think it creates a lot of issues. I get why guys do it, but I don't think I won't be a part. I don't think I could ever be a part of it. As a coach, as a fighter itself, I just don't believe in it. But I don't know. I mean, when something's big on the line and I try to put myself in their mind being like, hey, like, what's going to happen? Like, do I not defend my title that they threw on me? And that guy wants to fight me and I don't want to fight him. So it's just too messy in my mind.
Yeah, and that's what happens. That people, like, you never know. Like you said, like, you won't do it. But then, like, the guy that you train with for years, he just turns on you because, like, I want that title now. That's what I want. And you're like, what the hell, bro? I thought we had something. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't.
So I tweeted Matt, and then I'm going to get to our interview with Aaron. But I tweeted, what do you think is the nastiest? I don't know. You may have read my tweet. What is the nastiest knockout you can get in martial arts? What is the nastiest one? Like one that you would say like is the most devastating knockout?
Head kick. Head kick, like an ST plunge, drop to the ground, head off the canvas, done, out cold.
So you think head kick is your
head kick knockout? Yeah.
I said flying knees, man.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one too.
The weight, the power, the shortness of the weapon, the fact that you're jumping as maybe someone's going down, like a jump knee to the head. Like when I saw that Corey Sandhagen, Frankie Edgar, that to me is like you can head kick someone and they might buckle, but if you land someone with a clean flying knee, especially if someone's dipping down, I don't think there's anything more powerful, more damaging than that.
I do like the power on that, but every time I think of like a proper insane head kick knockout, I always feel whenever you set it up with lows, and then you go high, the guy thinks it's low, his arm goes down, and he just eats all of your shin.
Yeah,
the guy
I like it. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
I don't say. I said there's favorite and devastating, Matthew.
But this is my opinion on devastation.
Okay, so the head kick.
So for me, the devastating
shin across the
shin
head.
Right across the chin, it's over.
Yeah.
Lights
my
out.
second one was spinning hook kick to the head. The amount of speed and the momentum. If you land one of those whipping wheel kicks with the heel to your opponent's temple, that's death. The amount of speed to get that whip and the momentum based on a kick versus that spin or that jumping into the technique, I think you get more damage. Like the example of Michael Venom Page with Cyborg. Boom, crushed his skull. Like I haven't really seen a head kick crush someone's skull the way it did. It's basically head dented in.
Yeah.
You know, so like the amount of force and power you can get. And I think if the timing is right, there's just way too much force in those knees.
No, I agree. That's
nasty. True. And then that spinning heel kick. So those were my two answers. But I would say the third would be that wrapping head kick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but those knees, man, nasty. Well, let's see. The last concussion I had was via knee, flying knee, scissor knee, right?
That's true.
I mean, it's a heavy shot, weighted, and it's a big shot. I just hope Frankie Edgar's okay, man, because that was a nasty knockout.
And everyone thought that too. Whenever it happened, we're just like, shit, man. Like he's like the one guy you don't want to see that happen to.
Yeah.
You're a fan. I don't see anyone that hates Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, it's just too nice of a guy. I actually met him a couple times, and just a very nice dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he came to a Glory event. I met him at the Arnold Classic one year when I was doing some appearances. Just nice, friendly, sweet. Yeah, he's an OG. He'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
Or if not, he knows how to deal with these types of things. So we're good. Just a good guy in the sport that we got to look up to. So, yeah, while we're talking about UFC, now is the perfect time to bring in Aaron Bronsteter. We're going to recap this last event with Alistair Overeem and Volkov, as well as the upcoming fight with Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. So let's get to Aaron. So once again, to talk UFC, I'm bringing in my guy, Aaron Bronsteter. Like I said last week, one of the most educated when it comes to UFC and the fighters. So we do a weekly TSN MMA podcast. So I'm excited to have Aaron on here for you guys. So we're going to share, and hopefully you guys jump over to the TSN MMA show and hear. We do about an hour every week. So get in there. Aaron has some phenomenal interviews where he literally talks to every main event guy, basically, the headliners. He gets in deep. So, yeah, suggest follow Aaron, especially on Twitter. You'll see his name popping up all the time during the events, his live scores, his opinions, which I think are the greatest because you bring in these little cool facts that I like to see on Twitter all the time, whether it's gambling odds or some stat. That's one of my favorite things you post.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I try to bring something different to the table in every facet, at least that I'm capable of doing. So I'm not trying to give anybody any sort of in-cage analysis because I'm probably not as I guess well-versed on that as folks like yourself. But outside of that, when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to data, all of that jazz, I try to bring something different to the table.
So in our TSN show, we talked a lot about Corey Sandhagen. I was honest. I said, listen, I've heard such good news about this guy, but I haven't really studied and followed and kind of looked into, the subtleties of his technique. And let me tell you, man, I was impressed. So, yeah, I mean, his distance control, his eyes, the timing of that shot was just phenomenal. So Corey Sandhagen, I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's hard not to be. I mean, when you have a size advantage like that, sometimes it can be a disadvantage. Sometimes you got your chin up in the air, you get hit. And we've seen that countless times. But if you can use your size and your height to an advantage like he did there, he knew that at some point in time, Frankie was going to try to take him down. Sandhagen, admittedly said his takedown defense might be the weakest part of his game, although he's got a great ground game if he does get taken down. But I think he was waiting for Frankie to shift levels so they could use that move. And man, like when you watch that in regular speed, not in slow motion, it happened in the blink of an eye. And I mean, I'm so impressed with this guy. I think that he's going to be a future champion one day. I've been saying that to you for some time, Joe, after speaking to his coaches and how much they gush about this guy and talk about how good he is. And I just think that this guy has so much upside. And of course the loss to Aljamain, I think he's going to learn from that. And ultimately, I think that's a rematch we might see. I mean, he's going to face, I think, the winner of Jan versus Sterling after this, regardless. And I just can't wait to see, whether it's Jan or Sterling, how that one goes.
Yeah, and I mean, Frankie's that feinter, kind of uses those odd angle changes. So I was a little bit concerned if Corey was going to able to read those feints that Edgar likes to throw. But that timing, his ability to keep that space, use his length, I'm just really impressed. And I mean, it was kind of almost like the Dan Hooker versus the Chandler fight, that tall versus. And sometimes being the taller guy doesn't pay off because of those big bombing shots. But in this case, the timing of the knee, how brutal it landed, it was just nasty. And I mean, I honestly think that knee knockout was maybe worse than the Masvidal knee against Ben Askren.
Oh, I think so too, because he grabbed him with his hand, right? Like he basically led him right into it. Now, I don't know if it would have had the same velocity or momentum as Masvidal, and you're talking about heavier guys, right? So I mean, it's really hard to say, but I don't care if you're Frankie Edgar or you're Aldo or anybody. If you get hit with that, you're going down. I mean, that was like, it was pinpoint perfect, right on the nose. So I think the world of Sandhagen. And the good thing about him is, I've stood next to him. He's probably about 5'11". I'm 5'8", 5'9". And he's going to have that kind of a size advantage against almost anybody in the division, right? So I think we haven't seen the last of these highlight reel knockouts. He had one against Moraes and now this one against Edgar.
And I mean, those knees, back to those knees and how dangerous they are. I mean, I have to think the knee, I ended up tweeting it. I think the knee, the flying knee, or any basic knee, but I think the jump knee, because you're bringing all that momentum and weight into it, or the spinning heel kick have to be the most brutal knockouts. I mean, just the way you stiffen up. And again, my career, the last concussion I had was via a flying knee. It was Mark DeBon throwing a switch knee, caught me in that fourth round, and it dropped me. So I know how brutal those are. Another knee example I give, I think it was Michael Venom Page against Cyborg, with that knee basically crushed his skull with those knees. So I just think how weighted it is, how compact it is, how hard the knee is. Knees are one of the most dangerous weapons. And I mean, they're worried about these, north-south elbows, but you got to think some of these flying knees, especially as you're dipping your head down as the knee comes up, man, I think knees are so dangerous. Even in jiu-jitsu or wrestling, those guys get hurt by shooting and catching a knee by mistake, and then they get their concussion. So just knees in general, man, you got to really, they're not used a lot these days because I think you have to get in closer range. They're harder to set up, but when they land, let me tell you, man, they're easily one of the nastiest knockouts you can get.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that people should start working on them. Like you said, it's a very blunt part of the body. It's one of the harder and bigger of the really hard muscular appendages that someone can use as a weapon. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a lot more attacks using the knees in the future. This game evolves so much so quickly, and we look at the calf kicks and how that suddenly is this big topic of conversation, but they've been around for a long time. Knees have been around for a long time, but if people start figuring out new ways to utilize them, especially against people that are switching levels and going for takedowns, I think we're going to see a lot more knockouts like that in the future.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, again, there's that positive side. If you land it, they're great, but they do expose you a little bit. Like we've seen a lot of guys get knocked out trying to throw these types of knees. So, I mean, there's the good and the bad, but if you're a striker and guys are dipping levels, at least feint with them, at least create a show, a tell that you're going to throw these knees to kind of throw guys off. And it's weird to me when it comes to MMA and the bare knuckle fighting, because I actually paid attention to this bare knuckle fighting this weekend with Paige Van Zandt, with Chris Lieben. I thought it was cool, but a lot of the strikes that they were using, I mean, it's a little different than MMA and kickboxing, obviously, because they're allowed to basically use that clinch and throw these uppercuts, which I thought was very interesting. But for some reason, when they're bare knuckle boxing, or even when you see in MMA, guys, for some reason, tend to throw hooks more than uppercuts. Like, it's easy to block here, but right under, guys don't mix the uppercut enough or up those shots because you can't see the knee coming up the middle. You can't see those uppercuts. And just watching that bare knuckle fighting, I'm like, guys have to throw those shots up the middle. And then even punching the body with bare knuckle was so effective. So I think a lot of what we saw in the bare knuckle can actually be applied over to MMA. And it's just those up-angled shots that guys need to throw.
Well, you want to talk about right down the middle, Alexander Volkov against Overeem. Overeem's utilizing that shell defense, and he's going right down. He's hitting him right on the number, and that's how he broke his nose early on in that fight. Is he knew that the shell defense was going to be Alistair's weapons, and a lot of these bigger guys like to throw hooks, but Volkov, he adjusted and he knew where he was going to hit Overeem, and I think that was the difference maker in that fight, is just being able to penetrate that shell defense and figuring out a way to get inside and actually make that contact. Because we've seen Overeem use that shell defense, and he's getting pounded with shots, but a lot of them aren't getting through. With Volkov, they were getting through. Yeah. And I think that was the key to that main event.
Which surprises me because Alistair, okay, a kickboxer likes to use the shell. And the Dutch kickboxers are all about that high guard shell. You watch the Robin van Roosmaalens, high pressure, go forward, attack. So he kind of has that Dutch kickboxing style. But in MMA, I'm so surprised he's just that comfortable using that shell defense. Especially he backs himself against the cage and he sits in that shell. I mean, a good intelligent boxer like we saw with Volkov was at least able to change angles, angles, hit the uppercut. The one thing I would have liked to have seen Volkov do more when someone's in that shell is punch the body. Like when the head's covered, man, those round shots to the body help you set up the uppercut. So I think a little more level changing from Volkov, or maybe grabbing the hands, throwing the knee up the middle could have maybe finished it a little quicker. But Volkov's nasty. I just think he's so big, almost reminds me of that semi-Schilt style. I just think he's massive, and he's going to be very hard for anyone. I think that he's going to need someone like that Ngannou to come in there and just crush the power, but I think he's going to be one of the top contenders.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Poirier versus Gaethje for that in terms of the shell defense and how Poirier was utilizing a lot of the techniques you mentioned to get through that with Gaethje. But going back to Volkov, he's just a bad matchup for just about anybody in the division that can't wrestle. I mean, we saw what happened in the Blades fight, and he did get some momentum in that 5th round as Blades started to tire. But against wrestlers, he's going to have a bit of a tough go. And then you mentioned the guys like Ngannou and even Derek Lewis. We saw what happened at the end of that fight, where Volkov was winning most of that fight, and Lewis just came forward in berserker mode and knocked him out. Those are going to be the issues that Volkov has. But outside of that, I mean, this guy can hang with anybody in the division, and he's established himself as a top guy. It's just funny though, the recency bias was on full display on Saturday. You know, I said that Volkov should face the winner of Gane versus Rosenstrike, and everybody was like, no, he should get the title shot next. I'm thinking, like, hold on. So we have Ngannou versus Stipe next. You've got John Jones waiting. You've got Blades, who just beat Volkov. Yep. Like, where do people come up with this stuff? Like, do they just see a good performance? It's like, title shot, let's go.
Basically,
assessing the other pieces of the division. It's just, it's baffling for me, because that's what I was responding. I was like, you think he should get a title shot even though Blades just beat him and Blades is like in the mix? And then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's like, yeah, because you're utilizing recency bias, and that fight wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah. So as a purist now, I mean, ideally it goes Curtis Blades as the next shot, or, I mean, money, you throw John Jones, right?
Yeah, I think it's Jones. And I think especially if it's Ngannou that wins, I mean, Ngannou's beaten Blades twice, right? So, and Ngannou Jones is such a big fight. But I think Jones is going to fight the winner of that fight regardless. I don't think that Blades is going to get that shot, and I don't think that Volkov will get the shot either at this point in time. Now, the question is, do they try to book John Jones against somebody like a Volkov or a Blades first for him to get the title shot? But I don't think they need to. I mean, I think that Jones has established himself enough. A lot of people consider him to be, I'd say the majority of people consider him to be the greatest of all time. So if he wants a heavyweight shot first, a heavyweight title shot first, I think you should give it to him.
Yeah. My fight of the year to pick would be Francis Ngannou, John Jones. I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy to say that, just because I speak so highly of Francis Ngannou. I speak highly of him not only as a good athlete, as a good fighter. I know everyone's going to say, well, his takedown, his grappling. I just think as a human being, as a specimen, he's just so big, so strong. Like, you can't beat those genetics. I don't know. Like, I mean, the size of his legs and his hips, man, it's just crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I know you said Stipe did, but I can't
Stipe might
see
beat him again.
I know. I mean,
I think Stipe can beat him again. I understand that power. And I mean, hey, if Francis hits Stipe the same way as he did in the first fight in that first round, it could be a different story based on the wear and tear that Stipe has. But Stipe has the blueprint for how to beat this guy, and I haven't seen any evidence that he's shored up that part of his game, because he hasn't provided us with enough time to collect that evidence. I mean, he's beating guys in the first 30 seconds, right? So we don't know how much better Francis has gotten. That's the big question mark for this. Is he's working under Eric Nixick now. He's under a good camp. But when Stipe utilizes those kind of tactics, he's got great boxing, but his takedowns were what stifled Francis last time. And if he can take Francis down and keep him down there, which I think he might be able to do, could be the same as the first fight. We'll have to see. That's what's intriguing about that rematch.
Stipe's chin just always worries me a bit. I know he hasn't really shown big signs of being hit, but he's a big boy. He's been fighting in that heavyweight division for a while. I mean, just that Ngannou power scares me a little bit. But, I mean, Stipe grinding him in the clinch. He did fantastic against Daniel Cormier, keeping him against the cage, staying up. So if you can kind of wear Ngannou down, I can see it. But I'm just riding that Ngannou train, man. I just think he's phenomenal. And I'm just curious to see, and I'm sure you've looked it up, what would the opening odds be with that John Jones fight? Would you
which one? With Francis?
With Francis John Jones.
I think Francis was a small favorite, if I recall. I'll pull it up right here, Joe. But I mean, when you think about Stipe, this guy's got to be the most underappreciated, underrated guy in UFC history. Nobody talks about this guy in terms of top 5 in the UFC right now. But look at what he's done he's by far, I think, the best heavyweight champion in UFC history. Yeah. But it just seems like people overlook this guy, and they always think he's going to lose. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what more this guy has to do to prove that he's an all-time great. Minus 145 Francis, plus 115 Jones.
Okay, it's kind of fair.
And Stipe for Jones, John Jones minus 150, Stipe plus 130. Like I just said, very, very much disrespected. The greatest heavyweight in UFC history, an underdog to John Jones, who's never fought a heavyweight before.
Yeah, I just think it's insane. I mean, I think it's Stipe maybe not overly being that person on the mic that kind of calls people out, or I just don't think he makes that media presence of confidence that people get behind him like we see with the bigger names of the sport. But yeah, I'm one of those people. Like I'm just, again, I believe in Francis Ngannou, but I love the heart, the attitude, the life of Stipe. So I'm a fan of Stipe, but I just think that Ngannou's supernatural power is just too much, man.
Yeah, like what hasn't Stipe done? That's the weird thing. Like if you ask people who hasn't he beaten, you know, what do we still need to see from this guy? It's like he's already beaten Francis. I mean, obviously a win over Jones, I think, would cement him as the greatest heavyweight in MMA history. But I just don't know what more people want to see from this guy to prove that he's the real deal.
Yeah. And again, coming up this weekend, I want to quickly touch on some of these fights, which I find interesting. Teammates fighting, that's very difficult for me to kind of see. And I think it seems like those guys have kind of created a story saying, yeah, we're teammates, but we're kind of friends. So I think they've tried to create that separation between the two. But the whole UFC storyline is when teammates collide, you know, it's everything. The marketing behind it is about teammates, which I think is a great storyline. But just from a coach's point, being an athlete myself, the idea of fighting a teammate just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, as Gilbert said, I mean, we get into this sport to become champions. You know, that's what Gilbert's narrative is. And if it comes down to that, and I've even heard Dan Ige say that. Like Dan Ige works with Ali Abdelaziz for Dominance MMA. He says, I don't want to fight anybody that I manage, basically, or that he works with, unless it's for a title. He goes, if it's for a title, I'll fight my grandfather. He goes, you know, it doesn't matter to me. When there's a title on the line, you put all that stuff aside. And there's some people, I think, that feel that way, and then other people that don't. And it was really interesting hearing Daniel Cormier on with Helwani yesterday, where they were talking about, you know, Cormier said he would never wanted to fight Kane. But he also says that when you train with somebody as much as he did with Kane, he's like, you know. He goes, I know I wouldn't have beaten Kane. I know Kane was better than me. And I know that no matter how many times I would have faced him, I probably wouldn't have beaten him. And he goes, one of Gilbert and Kamaru and the people that are at Sanford MMA, they know. Like they know what's going to happen in that fight, or at least they think they know what's going to happen in that fight because they've seen so many hours of these guys sparring. Personally, I think Burns is such a nightmare matchup for Usman. It's all about matchups. And if you go down the line of everybody who's fought Usman, you haven't really gotten somebody like a Gilbert Burns in there that has such elite grappling that can offset Usman's wrestling, but also I think better striking than Usman. I think Gilbert has established he's a better power striker than Usman, a better precision striker than Usman. And if this fight's standing, I think Burns has the advantage. And I think that if Usman tries to take him down, unless he's able to really establish position, I mean, you're going down to the ground with one of the most decorated jiu-jitsu practitioners in all of mixed martial arts, right? So I can't wait to see how this one plays out. Yeah,
I definitely think Gilbert Burns brings a more complete package, but I think Kamaru brings the almost the IQ into it. I almost see it like a Kamaru as that John Jones, the GSP that can kind of do MMA really well. He uses his strikes to grapple. He manages the range. He puts you where he wants to put you. He uses his advantage of the pressure. So I think he does MMA better, where you know Burns is able to do both maybe at such a higher level. But I think the way Kamaru puts it together is better. I think it's just better. And seeing him work with Trevor Whitman, I think, is very impressive too, because you got to think the stylistic. He came from, you know, Henry Hoof. This was all about power style, come forward, hard kicks to punch, good combinations, which I think you really need in fighting. But from what I'm watching on the Embedded and the shows, you see Kamaru more working on the subtleties of the striking, turning the hip, getting the power turning over. And Whitman, I think his mind kind of works like mine a little bit, where he's really good with drills and different types of technique to break down the footwork. So from what I'm seeing is Kamaru's footwork, his distance, his striking is going to be nice and sharp, mixed with that strong wrestling, I think it's going to play really well for him. So I think he's getting more of that technical side of the striking now, more than that brutal attack side, what Gilbert Burns is phenomenal at. Like, Gilbert Burns is going to sit in the pocket and throw a combination to kill you. He's not trying to play for points. He swings, and that's why he's putting guys out so nasty. So I think it's just a very interesting fight. And when you said people talk about they know what's going to happen, is the consensus Kamaru's going to win?
Nobody has really said anything, right? Like that's the interesting part about it. And another point that they raised on that show was that while Usman does have Trevor Whitman in his corner, Henry Hooft has recused himself from this fight. He says, I'm not cornering Gilbert for this fight. I don't think it's right. I trained Usman all these years. So he stepped back. So I don't know who. I'm going to talk to Gilbert today. I'm going to ask him who's going to be in his corner. But I'm curious as to what happens in that fight and whether not having Hooft in the corner plays a role, right? Because the other thing, though, is that the people that are going to be in Burns' corner, I'm sure, do know Kamaru inside and out as well. I mean, if Usman's been at that gym, it's not like these are going to be new coaches that don't have any association with that gym. So I'm curious because I personally, when I look at the odds for this fight, I think they're off. I think that Gilbert should be getting a little bit more respect than the odds indicate.
What are the odds right now?
I think Usman's like minus 250. I can pull them up again. I've got the page up from the last time. I think they might even be higher. Let's see. Right now, it's Usman minus 280, Burns plus 240.
Okay.
I just think that I think that if you asked me out of 100 times who would win more, it would be I'd say probably Usman, but it's like he'd probably win like 53 out of 100 times, right? Like it's a close fight in my opinion. So I just think that the odds are not representative of how close of a fight this is.
And I think there's some other interesting fights on the card. I wouldn't say there's a lot of star power on it, but I think there's some fights that make me interested. I mean, watching Kevin Gastelum, Ian Heinisch, I think is one that I'm excited for. Pedro Munoz is always fun to watch. And one that I always like, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch, is Bobby Green. I really enjoy watching Bobby Green. I think he's technical. He talks a little trash. He kind of fights both stances, and he's fighting Jim Miller, and I think Bobby Green gets it done on that one. So
that's an OG fight. That's like the fight we just watched on the last card between Clay Guida and Michael Johnson.
Clay Guida, man.
Kind of
I was just for that fight, by the way. I was yelling. I was just like, Clay Guida. One word to describe him: machine. That's all I kept saying. What an animal!
That's it.
Machine. Yeah. Those are the words I kept thinking about because
he was outstriking Michael Johnson
with pressure.
Michael Johnson in that fight.
Incredible. I was so impressed with him. I like it because the Italian, hardworking, like the carpenter, the blue collar worker. I've been a fan of Clay Guida from the start. So impressive.
For sure. Yeah, he's awesome, and I think that. He had a good blueprint for how to beat Michael Johnson, and he utilized it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got so much fight left in him. What did he say? He's got a few more fights left on the contract now, and he's running it out perfectly. Those are
you got to give him opponents like that, man. I think you give him opponents that are good strikers, but maybe a little bit older that he can kind of take advantage of. And, if he's not able to take advantage, you got a good striker in front of him, right? So you got a good matchup either way.
Yeah, I think those are the fights like we've been saying. It's like we need more of those types of fights. Stop putting these veteran guys against these new young up-and-comers. Let's see more of the Matt Browns, Carlos Condits, the Michael Johnson, and, Clay Guidas. I think we need to see a lot more of those. I mean, even Bobby Green, Jim Miller's pretty good, but I still think Bobby Green's on that up-and-coming still. I still think he can be a fantastic contender.
Yeah, that's a fun one because I think that Miller has more ways to win that fight, but Green has just looked so good in the last year that it's hard to, not think that he's going to win that one. And he's a pretty big favorite as a result of that. But man, Jim Miller's like, he's not going to go out easily. Yeah. I think Jim Miller can certainly bring a lot to the table in this one.
Yeah, and I think the one fight that's gone under the radar that I really enjoyed on this card is Belal Muhammad and Diego Lima. I think is going to be a potential for fight of the night. Lima scraps, he hits hard, and I think Belal Muhammad has such good potential and good fight IQ.
Yeah, Belal has been an underrated guy in the UFC for some time. And I like that matchup too. If Diego Lima wins, that'll be the biggest win of his career. He really needs to get that kind of a notch on his belt, like a ranked guy in Belal Muhammad, a ranked guy in a pretty stacked division, no less.
Yeah, I helped Chad Lepre prepare for Diego Lima, so I kind of know his style because I was studying it and preparing it a bit. So Belal Muhammad's got some work. I think Diego Lima's just got that frame where, like, almost like his brother, he's got that crazy power. It doesn't look maybe as technical, as clean, as smooth, but it's that stiff, and he hits you, he puts you out. So I think Lima's just a scary fight for anyone, to be honest.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean, you got the last name Lima.
Yeah.
It's probably he can probably do a lot of damage. Although obviously Diego is not quite as good as his brother is, and he has been kind of touch and go in terms of his UFC career. Was able to earn his way back to the promotion, which I really respect. So I'm eager to see how he does against a good name, again, a ranked opponent in Bilal Muhammad.
All right, Aaron, let's give me, like I always like to end our show with, some fights to keep an eye on. I know Brian Keller is on the card against Ricky Simon, could be fun. Which one should I pay attention to?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to say the co-main event with Grasso and Macy Barber. I think that's just an awesome fight because these are two of kind of the up-and-comers in the flyweight division, and you got one that in Grasso who just moved up from strawweight, and you got Macy who's really big. Like, Macy is quite big for that division. So I think there's going to be a pretty big size discrepancy, and I'm also really eager to see how Barber looks coming off of that layoff, off the injury. And I know she's switched training camps. She's training in Chicago now. So I'm curious to see how she looks in this one. I'm surprised she's the underdog, to be honest, but I'm eager to see how she looks in her return because I think that she's incredibly talented. I think that loss to Modafferi was exactly what she needed at this stage in her career. She kind of needed a bit of a wake-up call, and you can also say, hey, she tore her ACL in that fight, right? Like, I think that if you tear your ACL in a fight and you're able to hang on and get through it, it showed a lot of toughness and heart on her part, and I want to see what she looks like after that recovery. I think she will win that fight. I think that she shouldn't be the underdog in that one, but let's wait and see because Grasso, of course, is really tough, really strong striking, good pace, and I think that this is a perfect matchup for both of them at this stage in their career.
Yeah, I like Macy Barber. I think she was fun. She's passionate. She's young. I just think she came in with so much hype and pressure that maybe that loss to Modafferi kind of was like, all right, let's rebuild. Let's stay focused. And if anything, it's just going to make her a better fighter. And I'm with you. I'm excited to see how she grew from that loss.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that one because I think it'll tell a lot about the state of the flyweight division. I think that both of them are going to put themselves in a position where they're going to be considered for a title shot after this one.
All right, Aaron, thanks for talking again, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow as we film our TSN MMA show, my man. Thanks again, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it, and always love being on with you, Joe.